Hi, David. Welcome to EquityX Talks. We are going to be sharing some of what we do in our daily basis in EquityX. So, just wanted to say hi, and I will start with some of the questions that I have prepared for you. David, could you please share us about your background and what motivated you to get involved with EquityX?
Sure, Luis Felipe, thank you for the opportunity. My background actually is quite uncommon because I was a Latino living in Colombia that wanted to pursue an education in the United States. So at a very young age, I worked really hard to get an academic scholarship to move to Texas. And I spent 18 years in the United States. So what I thought it was going to be a 4-year journey ended up being an 18-year full of lessons learned and failures and winnings. My background actually is in finance. I went to the United States to study finance, and I was lucky enough to find a mentor that actually gave me an academic scholarship to do my master's degree. And I ended up entering the workforce in the United States for 18 years, and I worked in 4 different companies, visited over 37 countries. And what motivated me to join EquityX is because I personally saw the problem of the succession of family businesses in my own family. My family had a family business that is no longer in place because of the lack of succession. And I truly believe that EquityX is solving a massive problem globally.
Perfect. Could you go deeply in that family experience? I would like to know the reason that motivated you to get involved into EquityX, but I would like to hear more about that story.
Sure. So when I was only 14 years of age, I came home and my family was sitting in the living room, and my dad said, "I gotta share some news with you guys. I've talked to your mother, and I've decided to sell the house, the cars, and the reason being is because I've decided to venture on my own." And you can imagine being 14 years of age. I didn't understood what venturing meant. So at that point, I've always been keen on eating ice cream, and I asked my dad, "What about ice cream?" Without understanding, what was upon us. Um, he said, "I just want to increase the quality of life." But since that moment on, I understood what an entrepreneur means, what taking risk means, and he was able to successfully bring many brands to Colombia's like Swatch, Orient, Seiko, Citizen, Mirage, Tommy Hilfiger, and Puma, and he became a distributor of these brands in Colombia of watches. And I saw how our quality of life increased, but also, there was a long nights of my dad and his members of his team working along him to be able to build this company. Now my dad lives in a ranch, and the company is not longer in place, and all those jobs were lost. So I believe that Equity X is an inspiration for me to be able to change those type of pathways that many people are probably about to experience.
That's very interesting, David. Thank you for sharing that story. I think a lot of people that would hear this content will be aligned on that experience. Could you please tell us about Equity X, in Equity X, our mission, and what resonates most with you in terms of alignment with you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have a written mission that is very inspiring. But to put it in lame terms, we want to resolve the problem of succession. 70% of the small business do not have a succession plan. And the solution for us is very simple. We want to resolve the succession issue by providing continuity through employee ownership. So if you start thinking about the solution, you realize that the people that have been behind the company, really putting a lot of work, deserve a chance to own it. And when they own it, their level of commitment is going to increase, and the succession is no longer an issue because it's going to stay within the people that is running the company.
Okay, understanding that unique model, um, which could you please highlight the core principles of our model? I heard employee ownership, long term business sustainability. Could you please deep in that, in those terms, and what we do in terms of employee ownership and long-term sustainability for businesses?
It's such an interesting question because, sometimes it's easier to explain things not by telling you what we are, but telling you what we are not. So people in this business are very used to a private equity, which is a buy low, sell high model. You buy an asset at a certain point, you clean it up, and then you sell it for a premium, and you keep, the premium. We're not that. We are not somebody that is going to come into a business and start looking at the margins and squish margins as much as we can. We don't want to buy a company and ask for that company to grow three times more or four times more. As a matter of fact, we're completely the opposite. We're a company that believes that we should buy and hold. Why hold? Because when we buy a company, we don't have the intent to never sell it again. So we want to keep the name, keep the employees for a period, as long as we can, for forever, and actually create a model where cash flow is very predictable and very consistent. And the reason being is because when you start giving employees the chance, to own a piece of the action, we're going to be able to create a model where that predictability is going to be very valuable for financial institutions. And we actually dream about owning and creating a financial institution that can serve that whole big company. That's how we're going to make money.
That I was going to ask that question. Dipping in how we're going to be doing businesses and focusing on sustainability. You talked about the financial model after the entire process with companies. Can you dip in that explanation, please?
Sure, like, our filter of companies that we're buying is companies that are, at least 10 years of age, that have a retiring owner, that have EBITDAs between half a million and $3 million, and have a layer of management. But when you start really looking into these companies, you realize that that predictability of cash flow is very valuable, for financial institutions that have an interest in supporting the growth and the working capital and the needs of these companies. So this predictability of cash flow is giving us a chance to create a financial institution, a neobank, where we can serve our own customers, which will be the holding company of the companies that we're buying. That being said, we will be able to provide not only loans for the companies, but loans for the employees. Not only insurance for the companies, but also for the employees. So as you can see, we're creating a model that is pretty scalable on the financial side, but very predictable and very consistent on the holding side.
That's very interesting, David. I would like to go further in terms of how we create value for employees. Okay, um, how does employee ownership at EquityX creates that sense of ownership, responsibility, and motivation among them, understanding that they come from a different vision of an original owner? How do we get into that process, and how do we transmit this idea to employees?
Yeah, I think it goes down to the most basic human behavior that you can think about, and the most human basic behavior that you can find in society is what we value, right? And you have a different set of values that I might have. The person that we meet in the street might have a different set of values that you and I have. But when we come together under the same roof to build something great in a company, that's what we call the values of the company. And those are values are things that all of us agreed as the commonality of things that we value to move the company forward. So, that's a good way to look for alignment. And that's what we call in management and alignment, for companies that have employees and management to be aligned towards a certain goal. But historically, we have seen that not always those values are put up front of the employees, and sometimes they don't understand why it's so important to have those values in place. So not only we are a value-based leadership company where we are actually putting these values in front of the employees, but we're giving them a chance to own a piece of the pie without putting extra money. So now they understand why the importance of every decision and every action that we take based on those values is going to have a consequence, either positive or negative, into the bottom line. And that bottom line, if it is positive, they're going to start feeling what it means to own part of a company and being able to be rewarded for following those values. If that makes sense.
Totally. From the financial benefits that you are mentioning and that employees receive, such as profit sharing or equity stakes, how does that look like for an employee?
Well, employee ownership has been around for many years, and probably high executives are the ones that have been more exposed to employee stock options, right? To vesting periods, you have to stay within the company, and all these are tools, as I said before, to be able to align the interest of the decision making of people that actually lead companies. Uh, because we're going to be able to acquire many companies with many employees, we have decided to take a different approach, an approach that is much more simpler for the employee. We don't want the employee to be, too confused or having to spend a lot of time and effort and money understanding the model. That's why we have decided to go with a very straightforward model where we not only don't change the level of compensation of employees, but actually layer in a simple stock granting option for them, as long as and it's tied to a performance plan, where if they meet the goals that we have set forward for the company, they are be able to, be awarded those stocks and then enjoy the rewards of owning a piece of the pie within the company.
That's very good in terms of the model. Um, Obviously, talking about employees and talking about retiring owners, we have to talk about who is going to be leading those companies, right? Could you please explain to us how does the model uh, has the proposition in terms of finding those presidents? How do we search for those presidents?
Sure, we are we're big believers that we want to give chances for people that have been performing for a long time to be able to, you know, have a chance to lead the company and step up to the plate. So the first step is when we are acquiring a company and we're talking to existing business owners, we ask them, have you identified anybody within your team that could, step up to the plate and lead this company? So that's a recommendation based decision making. If somebody recommends us somebody, something it's definitely something that we look into. But of course, as being EquityX, a company that is going to be acquiring several companies, not just one, we have a president placement program. So we're looking at those individuals that are very entrepreneurial, that are high performers, that have been wanting to take the leap to build their own company, but perhaps they haven't had you know, the momentum just to get it done to be able to do it with us. And the way it works is they will come in with a very good compensation, but also they will be able to have an equity stake on the company and participate in that selection process. We don't believe on just giving a job to somebody, but rather work on a very structured process where the most qualified person, whether it's promotion or new president, can come into play and be able to take that company to a very predictable and consistent cash flow.
Perfect. Understanding that president placement program and that obviously there's a great opportunity for employees to grow within the companies. I would like to understand how does EquityX model ensures business continuity and stability during this ownership transition?
Yeah, I think is there is a saying out there that says if you want to go to Rome, you got to find somebody that has been in Rome, right? So it's the same concept here. We are a team that have been there, done that. So we're looking, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this interview, what you're going to experience with us is actually we bring forward people that have been there, done that, and can walk us through that transition period to be able to continue the predictable and consistent cash flow that you have been able to put in place. If you're a president and you're listening to me, there is no reason to be anxious or to be nervous or have fear about the transition, because our owners will stay with us for no less than 6 months, no more than a year. And on top of that, we have layered in a very good process in which we're bringing a new president, we're bringing the owner and working together to be able to continue that predictable and consistent cash flow.
Perfect. Going back into our idea of sustainability, I would like to understand that 20-year company retention strategy that at some point you mentioned, and the importance for long-term sustainability, uh, also transferring the 80% of the employee ownership that you actually also mentioned. How does that impact business success, and what is the idea behind this thesis?
Yeah, if you start reading about management, what you're gonna realize is, management has a life cycle, right? And even if you're young and you're brave and you have tons of energy, your days are counting. There is only so much you can do, and sometimes it's not 20 years; it's much less than that, right? Why? Because things change. You know, you're pretty young. You're gonna stay, within your role for probably 3 or 4 years and start seeking other opportunities to learn more. The beauty with the model is that if we are truly interested in attacking that succession issue through continuity, the best way to do it is to empower employees to be able to determine how the company is going to perform. A lot of people talk about alignment. A lot of people talk about, companies are nothing without human beings. But few times, those human beings have a chance to understand how their decision making impact the bottom line. So by us giving stocks and participation and ownership to these employees, it opens a new door and a new era where every single decision that you make on a daily basis is gonna impact your pocket. And while people out there might say, "Hey, it's already in place," I think by owning is when you actually start realizing the impact of those decision making.
We were talking about the business owner, right? And there's a common question that comes by when the business owner asks, okay, what is going to happen when the transition process ends? What are the benefits of my company to go with EquityX rather than another model or a traditional model? Could you please explain how does our model and our transition to employee ownership works, and how does this would start to work in terms of that moment?
Well, I'll probably divide into two. The first one is that you can rest assured that we're looking at the best interest of the company, and we're not going to come in and buy low, sell high, change the name, squeeze margins, or move the headquarters. We're going to come in and buy and hold, do everything we can to be able to retain employees by giving them a chance to own a piece of the action, a piece of the company. And of course, the second part, which will be the second reason why you should go with us, is because at the headquarters, we have created processes to be able to take your company to a professional level that will be able to create predictable and consistent cash flow. Let me give you a couple of examples. Financial and accounting traction and financial and accounting management is one of the key areas of any company. You might have QuickBooks, but you might not have an ERP. We will come in with our financial team and implement that. You might be already with a website, but you might not be, fully digitalized to the 21st century. We will come in and help you with that. So, we believe that EquityX is a different model in the sense that we're not going to come in and try to get either your employees or your name to grow 5 times more, but rather have a predictable and consistent cash flow, and that give peace of mind to the employees that we have talked to so far.
Okay, David, thank you for sharing all this information. Could you please, or is there anything else you would like to share with us in terms of our model?
I think at the end of the day, what I would like to convey to the people that are out there listening is that everybody that has an interest in this company understand the value of the human aspect. And the human aspect is that at the end of the day, all these companies and all these people that are being touched have a certain level of goals and dreams. And if we're able to achieve our vision and our mission of, you know, attacking that succession through continuity, this company is going to change many lives. And I know it sounds many romantic and it sounds very hopeful, but the reality is that the company of my dad doesn't exist anymore. And the employees and the people that were supported by that company had to find another way to support themselves. For me, that's a huge motivation. And I know that if you're there out there listening to this video, you probably will relate to having that anxiety as a business owner of not knowing what Joe, that has been working with you for 20 years, is going to do after you leave. So, with that, I would like to encourage everybody to follow us, EquityX, in LinkedIn, and go to our website and engage with us to open, the new era of how to, tackle the succession problem in the world.
Thank you, David. Thank you for sharing. Uh, to finalize with this interview, I would like to close with you making an invitation to the different stakeholders that we have. Because obviously the purpose of our company that you just mentioned is pretty remarkable in terms of what we want to achieve. But our job is really tied up to the job of others. And I would like to hear which is the type of partner that we're looking for and how can they help.
Hi, my name is David Fonseca. I'm the CEO of EquityX. If you're out there and you're a business owner that have a company for at least 10 years of age and EBITDA of 500,000 to $3 million, I invite you to consider EquityX as a way to get to your retirement, where we'll come in by 100% of your company and fix that succession issue by giving a chance to those employees that you have within your company to be able to get a piece of the pie. If the truth of the matter is that 98% of the economy of the United States is in the shoulders of small businesses, and we're very concerned about that, how those succession is going to happen and transpire in the next 5 to 10 years, and that's where we're doing something about it, and we believe well we have a remarkable model. So even if you're not a business owner, follow us, support us, and let's open new lines of communication to talk about how the future looks like and what can we do to make it better. Thank you.